things that an equation and one of them is an expression. The difference between the two of them is whether there's an equal sign or not. So in mathematics, when we just put a group of things together, and I've got 4x plus 7y, without an equal sign, we would call that an expression. If we had 4x squared plus 7x plus 6y minus 5y squared, without an equal sign, that would be an expression. This expression is what kind of polynomial? What's it called when it has two terms? Two. Binomial. Think about your bicycle. There we go. Good. Hey, if we reviewed this one, what's the degree of that second polynomial? It has 4 terms. What's its degree? Its degree is 2. How do we find the degree? We look at the degree of each term. This one has a degree of 2, a degree of 1, degree of 1, degree of 2. And then you figure out which is the biggest degree, which is 2. Okay, Then if you have an equal sign with 2 expressions on either side, that is an equation. And when you have an equation, that gives you the opportunity to see if you can find numbers that could possibly go in these variables that would work. Whew. For this one, there's more than one answer that would work, but just finding one of them might take a while. But this is an equation. Whenever there's an equal sign with 2 things on either side, we will be doing a lot of solving equations. In fact, that is probably the algebra goal of high school, is how complex of an equation can you solve? We start off with simple equations, okay? Some of the simple equations that are even still part of the grade 9 that you have done before are equations like this. Ooh, 2 plus something equals 5. Okay. Ooh, this could be really difficult for us, right? That is a straightforward equation, okay? Right? This is still part of grade 9. We're going to do this one. But you feeling pretty good about that one? Right? You can see that x would have to be 3, okay? But fast forward a couple years, and you'll get to questions like this one. So you have to take a number, times it by itself, and then add 10 times that number. It has to equal 12. What could possibly work? That one is a lot harder. So, good. We can solve this equation with our grade 9 math. But we can see that our grade 9 math isn't enough to solve this one. And we will be developing our skills so that by the time you get to grade 11 or like my grade 12 see that and it's like, oh, another one of those, and they just solve it like that. Okay? Okay. Simplification. We talked about like terms. In algebra, we say that something is simplified when everything that's alike is put together. Okay? It would be like this if we go back to our grocery store analogy, and you come home from the grocery store, and someone says, "What do you have in the bag?" Would you think the person was a little bit weird if they said, "I have 2 apples and 3 bananas and 4 apples and 7 bananas"? Right? I can't even remember what I said. It would make way more sense if The person just said how many total apples they had and how many total bananas. Right? Sometimes you make a mistake and you say, oh, I have 3 apples and 7 bananas. Oh, no, I have 1 more. But then you'd correct yourself and say, I have 3 apples and 8 bananas. It makes more sense to simplify it by combining what you have. Oh, I saw a math question. It was a test question, and the student wrote the answer. The math question started off with, George has 36 chocolate bars. George ate 27 of the chocolate bars. What does George have? And the kid wrote, diabetes. George has diabetes. You don't eat that many chocolate bars. It's not good for you. True. Okay. I guess you can't necessarily say that student was wrong because of the wording of the question. So, we have one example here. We're going to look at 3x squared minus y minus 1. It's an expression because it doesn't have an equal sign. And we're really going to practice the definitions that we've learned. So here, question number 1. The exponent of the first term. So first of all, we have to know what the word term means. A term, this one, has 3 terms. Terms are coefficients and variables put together. Numbers and letters put together. So the first term is the 3x squared. And now you have to know, well, what does the word exponent mean? It's that little tiny number, right? That means repeated multiplication. So we can say, what is the exponent of the first term? It's the 2. How many terms do we have? Well, I kind of gave that away when I talked about what does a term mean. Right? Your terms are separated by adding and subtracting. So this is a term, this is a term, and this is a term. Our number of terms would be 3. Ooh, what kind of polynomial is this? Trinomial. Think of a tricycle, yeah. And after trinomial, they have binomials for 2, trinomials for 3. And then after that, there's not really, they stop giving them like, there's not like a 4-nomial, a 5-nomial, 6-nomial, right? After 3, they just say, we're going to call them polynomials with 4 terms, polynomial with 5 terms. Sort of what happens once you run out. I'm sure there's someone came up with a name, but it just didn't stick. Right? Like, same thing with polygons. Okay? 4-sided polygon, rectangle. 5-sided, what's the name of that 5-sided one? Pentagon. Okay, what about 6? No, not a sextagon. Hexagon. What about 7? Oh, close. It's got the same H thing that the hexagon had going. Heptagon. Whew. And then 8. Come on, you got it. Octagon. 9? Don't know, right? Nonagon. Decagon. And then 11. Is it? I know 12 is a duodecagon. Okay. And then it sort of happens that after a certain number, we just call them like a 13-sided one. We'd probably just go with a 13agon. And they actually write 13 and then dash agon, 24agon. Yeah. Okay, sorry. Got off topic there. Coefficient of the second term. So we have to look, what's our second term? Is negative y. Coefficient is, what does a coefficient mean? The number before the variable. So if the second term, which I'll write in brackets above it, is the negative y, What's the number in front of y? When it's not written, we talked about these, a 1. And with the negative, it would be -1. So if there's a subtract sign, that subtract sign goes with the term and affects the coefficient. Ooh, do you remember what a constant was? The number without any variables. Do we have one of those? The 1. But because there's a negative, we would write -1. Because there's a subtract, anytime the subtract, that negative goes with the coefficient or the constant term. Do we have any variables? X and Y. I'm very careful when I write and Y, because one time I wrote it really quick, and the student was like, who's Andy? I'm like, no, sorry, it's and Y. So I try to really, it's like, were you trying to tell Andy it was X? No, it's X and Y. It's not like, come on, Andy, it's X. Exponent of the second term. What's our second term was the minus Y? 1. Remember again, it's hidden there. It's not written, but when a variable is by itself, it has an exponent of 1. And what is the degree of this polynomial? The degree is 2. How do we find a degree? We look at the degree of each term. This would have a degree of 2. This would have a degree of 1. This one has no exponents and would have a degree of 0. The degree of the whole thing is just the biggest one. You never add them up. So the degree of the whole thing is 2. So I wanted us to get a chance to finish our definitions. We're going to be using all of these words a lot in this unit, and you're going to be seeing them over and over again as you move through math classes in high school. There's a homework listed, okay? That homework that's listed there, that is if you finish your test early tomorrow, okay? That homework is due for Monday, okay? So you finish your test early tomorrow, you have something to work on. Yes. And now we have 20 minutes left. I'll stop our YouTube video. Oh, looks like, oh, it was working.